Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Some of you have stuck with me a long time today, so I appreciate that. We did a class 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then now, of course, we're back here to do Inktoberfest. So let me spotlight, let some people in. So tonight we're going to be talking all about distress, and I want to talk about the difference between distress ink, distress oxide, when to use each one, a couple of tips. I'm going to touch on the crayons, the sprays, the watercolor pencils. I did buy some spritzes when I was at Scrappy Shack, so we can talk about those too. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I can see YouTube, I can see Facebook, the Zoom. So feel free to drop them down and you can let me know if you have any questions. So let's dive straight in to my desktop. All right, so here I have my Distress ink and my Oxide ink. So we actually talked about this in class earlier. Distress inks have been around a long time. I was saying the first ones I remember meeting Tim at an English craft trade show. I don't know that they even have that show anymore. And it was huge. Um, and I met him, and I think it was the first 12 or 24 colors were out. And I lived in England, so that I would have been 18, maybe. So that tells you over 20 years ago. So they've been around a long time. They're from Ranger, as we all know, and they're a water reactive ink. So what does that mean in the difference between, say, a color hive or a Gina K with this? It means that these are designed to react even more with water than other inks. And when you put down your color hive and then you spritz it a little bit afterwards, yes, we get some nice pigmentation. We get a little bit of changes and things come up, but not as much as when you're going to use a distressing. These are designed to really work with water. This is designed to give you crisp, clear stamping. This is designed to give you a distressed look. It's designed to bleed and be a little bit crackly and not necessarily quite as crisp as these inks. This is a thinner ink formulation than this. If you look at the re-inkers for a color hive, you'll notice how concentrated they are. You look at a distress re-inker, it's more watercolory, it's more water-based, and that's how you get that water reactivity. So that's kind of the chemistry as I understand it. And this is just things I've learned from Tim over the years. I've been to the Ranger factory a couple of times, so I'm just kind of letting you know the things that I've picked up, that is how distress inks were formulated. So they're designed to be distress, they're designed to react, and they are dye-based. So they are going to always react with water. You cannot watercolor with them. You cannot, if you spritz them with water, they're always going to reactivate. You can put them down and make them mix together, all those kinds of things. Then Tim came out with an oxide, and now, of course, there are minis in both of these, as we know. Now, Distress Oxide is a dye and pigment fusion. So, you know, when we take our color hive inker and we add pigment ink to it, basically it's like that. So that's kind of how the oxide works. And that white pigment is what they call the oxide. So this you can only use on light cardstocks. This you can also use on dark cardstocks. Now, I don't know if you know, but you can also use your oxides on glossy cardstock for smushing and things like that. And it's really, really pretty. Like, for instance, if you have the Ranger glossy cardstock, you can use your oxides on it, put them down on your surface, smush, and it becomes even chalkier than using regular white cardstock. And you still have that glossy kind of funness to it. You can do it with distress inks. It just doesn't work quite as well. There is something about the chemistry of the oxide that allows you to do that. That's something Tim taught me years, actually, when oxides first came out. And I did a Ranger class and they taught us that technique. And it's really, really cool. So it's a fun way to just kind of experiment when you do it. Now, another tip they gave us, and I don't know, some of you may know some of these tips already, but I'm going to just share what I know. When you're stamping on dark cardstock with your oxides, so because oxides have pigment in them, you can use them on dark cardstocks. I'm going to use my florals from our Inktoberfest kit, is you always want to stamp twice, and I'll show you the reason. So this is the same almost with all pigment inks. When I stamp with my snow flurries, you'll often see me stamp twice, but this has even more dye in it than a traditional pigment ink, so it's even more important to do so. So what you can do is stamp down, and you see it sits on top, but it's a little bit fuzzy. And as I just said, they're not designed to give you crisp, clear designs. They're designed to be a little bit fuzzy anyway because of the word distress in them. That's what Tim wanted. He wanted something that wasn't uniform. It was going to give you that distressed effect. I really need to find my smusher. I don't know what's happened to it. But when you stamp it for the second time, you see how vibrant and how much that color pops on the black. So when you're stamping with oxides on black cardstock, make sure you stamp twice. The reason what happens is the first time you stamp, the dye in the dye pigment fusion absorbs and the pigment sits on top and creates a barrier. So when you stamp the second time, that pigment sits on top of the pigment and gives you that bright contrast. You can also stamp with snow flurries first and then the oxide. That will work too. That will give you an even more vivid image. Let me grab another piece of black. So you can take, I had tons of cleaning cloths earlier. So I'm going to give this a nice clean squid buster using my caramel latte from the kit. If you take some snow flurries, I'm just going to ink it up with snow flurries. And these are very different ink formulations. You're going to want to clean your stamp in between. So you see how you've got a little bit of the pigment sticking on top, but if I stamp that a second time, it would be super bright. I'm actually going to put an oxide on top. And you can stamp with your dye inks on top of that and get a really pretty effect. And you can therefore use all of your dye inks on dark cardstocks. I don't know if we've covered that in Inktoberfest. I know we did in the inky deep dive. So you can see. So it's again a little bit different. So this one's going to give you that more distressed look. This is going to give you the brighter look by adding the snow flurries underneath. So again, you can play with it and have a couple of different options with how you want to play with it. Okay. So I want to see all cards. Okay. So again, just another way that you can play around with Distress Oxides on black. You can also ink smush on black. You can do all those kinds of things using your oxides. Oh, all right, Tully was calling. I'll bring it back. Hopefully you can also, can someone leave me a comment in Zoom if you can still see my desktop? When my phone rings, it goes funky. So,
Facing the wrong way. It's going up and down instead of sideways.
thanks. Better?
That better. Yep, you can come down a little bit more or move up a little bit more. There you go.
Thanks. It all gets messed up when the phone calls. Like all day I had it on Do Not Disturb, so it never went off. But anyway, so yes, so on top of the snow flurries, you can use dye or oxide. Well, actually, let's do a video on that. Maybe we'll cover that tomorrow, like how to use your dye inks on dark cardstock. I don't think we've done a date on that. We kind of talked about it more in the inky deep dive, so we can talk about that for tomorrow for sure. But anyway, so we'll get back to these. So yes, you can stamp on your dark cardstock. You want to stamp twice or stamp with snow flurries underneath. You can very much see the difference. One's going to give you that chalky effect. One's going to give you the bright effect. So you can kind of play around with that as well. Okay, so that's that. What else do you need to know about oxides? Oxides, again, are going to always react. They're always going to look chalky. If you want to ink smush with oxides and distressing, so if you want to mix these two mediums on a project, you always want to use your distress ink first and then use your oxides. If you want to smush, I always recommend smushing with your distress inks and then doing a separate smush with your oxides. Or if you do want to do them both on the same surface, put the distress ink down and then put the oxide down. Because if your oxide gets onto your distress ink, it will contaminate it like any pigment ink. And it's very, very difficult, if impossible to get off. So distress ink first, then oxide, try and keep them separate. That's my tips on working with those two. If you want to use them both on the same project, that is. Okay, so they also do both of these in a spray, same deal. So you can spray both, you can use them both on white cardstocks, you can use the oxide sprays on dark cardstocks. You could also use it on your glossy, your Ranger glossy, the Geminino, if you still have any on the glossy side, you could use it on that. It's a special coating that's on there. I'm hoping to get something similar back, but I think it'll be two separate surfaces because they don't make that exact same one anymore. I tried and tried at the paper show, but that was a no-go. So, um, yes, you can use them on glossy. It's a super cool effect. Sprays, yes, same deal with those. Then he came out and I got rid of my distress crayons. I know it's sacrilege, I know. But distress crayons are cool. There is a video on the channel if you want to go back. I did like a really intense deep dive on distress crayons. And I kind of go into all the techniques. You can use them through stencils. They are water reactive. They're very much a mixed media medium, and they are water activated. Without water, they don't really go very far. But if you want to do that, watercolor pencils, again, they just happen to coordinate with his 60 colors. There are 60 colors in the palette. And you can do the same thing in terms of making them coordinate and color with them, take a water brush, and you can move them around. You can even kind of color in sections. We'll do a day on watercolor pencils this week, and we'll kind of discuss ways you can use watercolor pencils because they're a fun medium to use too. I don't have Tim's, but I have some here. Um, so that's that. As if you're interested in crayons, search the channel. There is a video on watercolor crayons. So that's that. Then there are some sprays. So he comes out with these limited edition mica mists. They are basically they're like a colored re-inker and he adds mica to them. You can spray with them. You can use them on dark surfaces. Only the mica will show on the dark surface. But you can spray them on light surfaces. And my top tip is when you spray with the mica spray specifically, is spray it with hairspray. It will stop that mica coming off onto your hands, onto everything else, transferring onto other parts of your project. This locks in the mica. You can use a shellac or something if you want, but it's kind of overkill. Hairspray will work fine. So any mica mist, if you struggle, the mica always comes off and it molts everywhere. Spray it with some hairspray, just like kaleidoscope powder, and it won't molt on you anymore. Then we have distress spritzes, and I just got these. I watched some videos on them. They're super fun. They're kind of like the last distress product Tim's going to put out, like in terms of new products. And they're a little bit like a mica mist. So on the side, it just says, where was it? I was reading it. Maybe it only says it on the, okay. So it's here. Tim Holtz Distress Spritz is a luminous spray that coordinates with the Distress palette to add colorful shimmer to your favorite Distress products. Distress Spritz is a formulated blend of pearlized pigment in a clear fluid base. Used on porous surfaces, blah, 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 blah. Works with distressing, oxide spray stain, oxide spray, paint, pencils, and pastes. Okay, so what does that mean? So when you have the mica mists, it has a colored dye inside and then mica. What this means is it's a clear spray with colored mica. So that's the difference between the mica mist and the distress spritz. So these are designed, and I mean the fluid will take a little bit of the color just naturally. And shake this one up. So like you can see naturally it takes up some of that luster and color. We'll spray one on here so you can see. I'm only doing this to try and so what you see sitting on top here is the gold mica dispersed. And so the mica is going to dry. If I do it on light cardstock, let's have light again. All you've got is the mica dissolved in the water. So there is no actual pigment in here or dye that's coloring the spray. It's just designed to give you a luster in that distress color. Whereas like the mica sprays he did, like the coffin and the tomb ones and that, I had like purples and oranges. They were a while ago. Um, they had a colored solution and then mica in them as well. So that was the difference between them. Um, so that's kind of how they work in things. So once these dry, and you can see there's pretty luster in them. Oh yeah, this one is super pretty. This is fossilized amber. It's gorgeous. I mean, really gorgeous. Um, on black and white. Because this is a mica pigment, so it sits on top. And so when this is dry, I would spritz it with hairspray because otherwise that's going to shed. If I rub my finger over it, you see how it sheds. You can spray them over the top of your distress inks. Um, they will because this is water based. I'm pretty sure that's what I just read on the card was it was water based. They will affect your distress inks. So they're not going to just sit on top of the distress inks. They are going to reactivate it a little bit, not huge amounts, but a little bit. They do have a setting agent in them because you can see that. You see how this looks? I don't know if you can see it on there, but it's raised. So there is a setting agent in it, but you can also see it comes off on my finger. So if this was dry, I would spritz it like that, and that will seal the mica to your cardstock. So you can use these on canvases, you can use it on cardstock, paper, collage paper, anything that's porous. Again, you could use them on top of your glossy cardstock, but you can't use them on a Yupo. You can use them on vellum, but they're going to take a long time to dry, or you need to heat dry them. But also remember that vellum doesn't like too much water, so you want to be a little bit careful with using them in this way. So that's all about distress spritzes. Does anyone have any other questions about distress? That's kind of like Distress 101, basics guide of different things about distress. I have videos all about oxides. I have videos all about distress inks. I actually did a really good video for scrapbook.com about distress inks. That was like one of the first videos I ever did for them. So if you haven't seen that, you can check that out. It's still on their channel as far as I know. I have a video on the distress crayons. I didn't have one on the spritzes. Just because we didn't have them back then. But I did use some of the mica sprays and things in them as well. So if you have any other questions on oxides, feel free to let me know. But I think that's kind of like crash course. I know something most people don't know is that you can use the oxides on the glossy cardstock, and it's kind of a fun technique to give you that like extra chalkiness to them, making sure that you don't contaminate them, and just when to use the different ones. So if you want to just do regular stamping, you're going to do this one. If you want to do some fun kind of chalky oxidizey type techniques, or you want to use dark cardstocks, we're going to use this one. These also look super pretty on the craft colored cardstocks and tags. I like to use them on there as well because that pigment sits on top. So it gives you like a really nice effect as well. But yes, that's the Distress Crash Course. I think we covered all the products. I don't think there's anything else in the distress range that I missed, but hopefully you all found that useful. Let me know your favorite top tip over in the comments right now. I'm going to, of course, find a winner while you do that. Do, 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 do. Michelle's got the drum roll. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it.
A bit
Um,
of cheeky fun.
All right, there we go. I might just go for 23, 22, 21. And our winner tonight is Michelle G. You were so close, Michelle F, with your drum roll. You even tried to manifest it. I know.
I'm happy I won the other night. So, and my
22.
favorite tip was using the oxide on top of the snow flurries. I
Hmm.
like that technique.
Yeah, it's
And
a fun one. So tomorrow I'll cover because you can use dye inks on top of pigment. You can use all kinds of stuff on top of pigment. So we'll kind of just revisit pigment and talk a little bit more about other ways you can use pigment. Um, and pigment is, I think, more water reactive than people realize. So you can do some fun stuff with it too. So we will cover those things tomorrow. We'll do like a pigment ink part 2 tomorrow night. So we'll do some variety of things. But thank you so much for joining me. And a special thanks to those of you who stuck with me all day and then came back again tonight and did another round with me. So you're troopers. All right, I will see you all tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And have a wonderful rest of the evening. Don't forget, free shipping is on in the store. And for those of you wondering, the ink pad holders are listed. We decided to go with black, pink, and purple. And the purple I ordered is purple silk, so it has a luster to it. It's really pretty. So I ordered it. It's on the way. And the other ones are baby pink, and then black is black for now. But we'll add more colors and other things. I found all kinds of, I went down a rabbit hole of filaments just now. So anyway, that's the color I picked. So that's your options. Is you've got dark purple luster, pink, like a baby pink, but it's matte like this, or black. So you can pick. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of the night. Denise, I will email you in a little while. I'm going to go get some dinner and then I'll send you an email response. All right, we'll speak to you all later. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Don't forget to hit subscribe, thumbs up,